Welcome. Today we're going to go over the essentials of making a cable snout. What you'll need is cable, wire labels, a marker so you can mark the wire labels, and if you don't happen to have wire labels, if the cables are laminated, you can always write on them. You also need a roll of electrical tape, side cutters, and pull string. Since I already have these cables labeled, I'm not going to go over how to label these. These labels are only temporary, so you don't have to worry about how straight they are. These will be replaced once you're finished with pulling your cables and you're going to do the final terminations at its destination. One of the first things we're going to do is taper the ends of these cables. Right now I'm using 4 different size cables. We want to taper the ends just to make sure we pull it smoothly through the conduit. I'm going to start with the largest cable first. That way it'll be more solid when I'm pulling it through and using my pull string or drag line, however you might term it. Make sure when you cut these off, you want to make sure you clean up any mess or debris as you go along. All right, now I have my tapered edges. You want to stagger these down, so again, starting with the bulkiest cable and work your way down. You want to stagger them about a few inches apart. That way you have nice clean pulls and it levels out as it goes to the conduit to help you get through corners and navigate the conduit through your pull. A good suggestion is anywhere between 3 to 6 inches apart. Now you're going to move on to your pull string. You need to check with the authority having jurisdiction to see if you can actually leave a pull string in the conduit for future use or pulls later on. There are a lot of areas that do not allow this, so for today we're not going to go over that. I'm just going to use this as the main pull that we will be using to get the cables through the conduit. Now for this I'm just going to be using a simple hitch knot. So once I have all my cables at the right distances, I'm just going to take my drag line or pull string and make sure you have enough on the end that you can actually see it coming out from where you'll be taping it. This just wraps underneath. And you want to start behind your first tapered end of your last cable. Once you have that done, you're going to take your electrical tape and just hold that down in place so you can continue on with the other hitch knots that you'll be needing. And you want to make sure to cut your tape, not to pull it. That way it doesn't bunch up. And a good thing to do is to actually put the knot in between the cables to make it nice and flush. That way you don't have bulky edges where you're going to be pulling. So for this I'm going to continue on. Just behind my next tapered edge. And again, taping that down to hold it in place. Now if you can have a coworker assist you with this to pull on the string, that would be helpful just to keep it nice and taut. And whenever you're taping, you also want to make sure that you pull the tape nice and tight. Make sure, since that pulled apart, I'm going to actually do another wrap around to make it nice and flush and then cut the tape. And this will be the last one I'll need for this since I'm only using the 4 cables. And again, make sure that that slides down in between the cables and is nice and taut. Now you'll be covering up your wire labels, so don't worry that you can't see them. These are just to identify the cables once you get to the final destination of the pull. And again, they will be replaced. So now that I have all my hitch knots in place and held down, I can go on and finish taping the rest of the snout. For this, you're going to start your tape at the back of just behind the first notched cable. And you want to make sure you keep it nice and tight. That way you can push out any of the rough edges and keep the knots in between the cables. And you're going to continue this taping all the way down the length of the cable. And for any reason, if the tape gets twisted, just untwist it. If you need to cut it, that's fine. But you want to try and keep as many rough edges out of the tape as possible. Slide that in between the cables there. So, and we're taping the whole length of this to make sure that there is no snags and that everything stays together properly as you're pulling it through the conduit. And you'll notice that with the tapered edges, the cables become nice and smooth as they transition from one to the other. That'll help so it doesn't get caught up on any corners and help assist getting through 90-degree bends and conduit. And you want to tape this all the way down past the end to make sure that you don't get any separation between the pull string and your final cable. And now that I've done that, just trim the tape. Make sure it's all flush. And now you have a cable snout.